Thank you. You ready, Brett? Hello, hello. The title for today was originally, I think, Push Through Pain. And I had a little bit of trouble with that title. And I've changed the title to be The Soul's Call Through Pain. The subject that will be for this month of June for the talks is about the soul's call. So I want to talk about that in particular and how the two may relate. And when it comes to the soul, we may automatically have some particular terms that come into our head. We may talk about or think about soul's purpose, our soul path, what we're here to do, or soul and spirit. And what is the difference between soul and spirit? When we think about that, the call of the soul, can we really hear the soul? Actually, can we hear it calling to us? Or is it something that we have to experience to think that, or to know that it's really trying to get our attention? It's trying to wake us up. Is it trying to remind us that we're here to grow, that we're here to fulfill a particular purpose or a script or an agreement? And whether you agree with anything like that, that's what I want to play with today. The global theme that was suggested for tonight's talk felt like it was lingering a little bit in too much of the pain idea, and we don't have to linger there. We know we have pain in our lives, and some say we have to use that pain to heal our soul, and that's kind of the only way that we can do it, to be the pain for healing. But I don't want to linger there. It feels a little too static. So I had a friend once whose counselor told her that you can get caught in that idea of pain in your thinking. And she described it as a deliciousness. That sounds kind of odd when we talk about psychology or pain, but there is a difference between when we get caught in that idea of pain in our, oh, I have to do something for us. That's not doing. Am I doing? Oh, there we go. I'm used to a touch screen. That was Brad. Isn't he wonderful? He pushes the buttons for us. Oh, not all computers are touch screens. So let's go this way. So deliciousness. When we talk about psychology, we get caught up in our pain. We get caught up kind of in that depression. We can get caught up in that feeling about that. And she calls it deliciousness because it feeds our emotions, and it kind of keeps us in that one place and does tend to keep us static. It's like a drug because it feeds your emotion, and it's very hard to kind of pull out of that because it wants to hold you there. So I understand that's where we come from when they talk about healing through pain, but we have to move out of that. So for all of those who obviously kind of had to fall on our faces a bit before we kind of got to that threshold, that is what got us to do our work initially. It kind of sparked us. It was hurting in some way. We are very emotional beings. We're created with tremendous emotion. We're created with feelings that fuel us, feelings that start wars, feelings that make love, feelings that spark our attention, that makes that demonstration in our life, and that starts things that happen, that open the doorway to make a change in our lives, right? Those feelings really prompt us and move us, our strong emotions. That's the point of wake up, actually, to take action for healing and whatever it is we're supposed to do, what's supposed to be happening for us. It is thought plus feeling that equals the demonstration in our life. Thought plus feeling equals the change that comes from what we want to do. It is the emotion that fuels that. It's like feeding spark plugs. We don't have to linger in that emotion of discomfort and pain, of feeling like our butts being kicked all the time to open the door. But it does start the ignition. I think for a long time, it may have been the only way we were taught that the work could happen. So we had to be in that pain. We had to feel it. And I don't really want to sugarcoat things, but does growth really have to happen only by being through painful experiences? I was surprised to find out in 2011, the first time I heard, well, yes, but no, actually, we don't have to linger in pain to have change in our life and to create change. I was kind of happy to hear that. So how do we do that? We are human after all, and here on Earth, we live in a time sequence reality where things have to play out in a particular order. So I believe that our patterns have trained us to recognize that first we kind of have to be in that pain. It's the only way. But let's change that. We don't have to feel pain before we can remember who we are, what we are, and why we are here. It's just because we were taught that way. When we experience pain, and it can be a spark for that slightest memory of spiritual forgiveness for ourselves or for another person we've interacted with, that can move us alone, and that's a good thing. If we learn to speak from our real truth, from our heart, where love is, we could actually make room for pain to go away and for healing to begin. And we can grow in ways that maybe are not so painful. Plato spoke to a theory that I'll paraphrase, that each person enters the world called by a personal guide given to them just before birth. And it is the task of this guide to actually guide the individual through their life, to align with and stay with a particular pattern of behavior and appearance and outcome that was set before birth within the soul of that individual. He is their soul guide. Wouldn't it be nice if we could all hear our soul guide and stay in our own lane all of our life and kind of grow that way without those painful experiences? We wouldn't hurt ourselves and wouldn't hurt others. Would it be boring? No. I would think not. I would hope not. I asked earlier, what is the difference between soul and spirit? Well, while I was writing this talk, I'm in my office looking up things, and my lovely husband walks by and says, is there anything I can do for you? And I said, well, I'm trying to come up with a simple definition of the difference between soul and spirit. What do you think is the definition of soul and spirit? And my husband thinks for a minute, and he says, soul is right here, referring to the heart area. Soul is right here, between asshole and spirit. And then he gives me a wink and walks away. Well, funny, but maybe not so helpful. Here's a better definition by Ernest Holmes, the founder of Science of Mind. Spirit is God, first cause, the first push, the all, the I am. It is the top third of our teaching symbol, and it is God in man, our connection to the God source. Soul is man, the activity of our thought, emotion, and feelings that form our experience in the world. It is the middle third of our teaching symbol, sitting between God and who as first cause and what we put out into the world. It is our personality, that part of us where we want to do good, but it can only do what we tell it, and usually unconsciously. Some say the heart space is where the soul connects. So spirit is God, soul is man. I had a friend a long time ago that would describe people who just couldn't quite figure life out. And she would say, what a twisted soul. And that was referring to her belief that the individual was just not able to hear that little voice within, that guidance from their God connection or their soul guide. I believe our soul does call to us. If it is, as Ernest Holmes describes, that the soul is the medium that can only do what we tell it, then how does the soul know to call us? Is it that just a cliche? Is it just a saying? Well, I suppose we can add that to one of life's mysteries, but something for sure, maybe it is our soul guide, sets off an alarm within us. Sets off an alarm that it's time to wake up. It's time to change something in their life that's not working. Time to maybe have that child. Have you felt that alarm? I've had that alarm twice in my life. Once when it was time to have children, it was like, bam, make it happen now. I guess those little souls were ready to come in. And the other was when it was time to enter ministerial school. I actually kind of blacked out in the shower one day, not the best place to do that, and had a vision. So those were the wake up, the alarms that I had. Those are the times that we find our soul purpose and we start on our soul path. Or maybe that's the moment when we are set on our path to find out what God quality we chose to learn here on earth. Neil Donald Walsh tells a lovely story in his series of children's books that God sends us nothing but angels, others like ourselves, beings of light, to assist us on our journey. All of the angels that have come here and volunteered to be with us, they have volunteered from love to work with us, whether it's a good thing or actually whether it's to create even a transgression on our path, which allows us to play out what we have chosen to experience here on earth. Whether it's learning to forgive someone, being kind, considerate, sharing, helping, and very important, to remember that everyone is very special. Everyone is special, a light of God, and that no one is better than another person. It may be wonderful and sometimes not look so wonderful, but in the end, it was what was agreed on between those two souls. Along with playing our part of learning about being hurt and healing the hurt, those who volunteered to be the transgressor, the one that hurt us, they also have a very special role to play out. They need us to remember our task and to do our healing, because that assists them to complete their role so that they can remember that they came from light just like you did. And that helps them rise back into the light again. For a light being to agree to be the kind of person that creates a transgression in someone's life, they must lower their light and they must lower their energy to be that kind of person who would do those deeds. And they need our assistance of the forgiveness of whatever relates to the interaction to remind them of the agreement that we had. So it is the assistance and healing, remembering doing our soul work on both sides of that interaction. Of course, this explanation is very simplified. If we do not do our work of healing and growth, in a small way, we limit and slow down the healing of the other angel. Can you see that circle? As we help ourselves, we are helping the other. It's quite a spiritual relationship, no matter what it looks like or how it appears on the surface. Make agreement based on unconditional love to come to earth and to play out an event with another person. As the one that's hurt learns to love, their light increases and they have the learning experience that they chose, and that healing assists the other soul, the doer, to be released from the agreement and heal so their light comes back. Both have learned and grown a great deal and experienced things that you can only experience here on earth. It's a circle of growth and expansion for each soul on both sides. Now, I've used the word circle, and when I was thinking about doing this, I wanted to explain what that feeling was. I had a flash of a dear friend who wrote a book called Changeless Change. Her name is Carol Davis. She's a practitioner from California. Carol describes life as a series of circles year after year. We are born, we feel joy, we feel pain, we die. That's the circle of life. And within the circles, within nature's circles are the seasons, always present in the same order. That doesn't change, but each season may be different from year to year. And that is changeless change. Circles are metaphoric for humans, of course. We can rename these circles as emerging, awakening, stretching, blooming, maybe going through a few drought periods and even floods, dropping what no longer serves us, and going into retreat or the underground sleep in December, the nurturing, and then it starts all over again. That is changeless change. This little book that Carol wrote describes the healing and awakening of her soul through the circles and what she learned about the importance of healing ourselves in this reality. I want to quote Parker Palmer, author and educator. The human soul doesn't want to be fixed. It simply wants to be seen and heard. The soul is like a wild animal, tough, resilient, and shy. When we go crashing through the woods, shouting for it to come out so that we can help it, the soul will stay in hiding. But if we are willing to sit quietly and wait for a while, the soul may show itself. So I want to translate that into what I've shared so far. We come through life like a roller coaster, ups and downs by ourselves with other people. It doesn't work to beat ourselves up, and our soul itself is not the problem. We've come into this world through our own thought and patterns, forgetting our spiritual agreements, causing events and situations that have caused us tough times. We haven't listened to that still small voice within. When we finally hurt too much or caused too much pain to others and ourselves, we finally wake up to the idea of healing. That is the call of the soul, to awaken, heal what hurts us, regain our light, and consciously reconnect with spirit. Then we can be our authentic self in the world. I want to talk a little bit about Carol. She's a fascinating woman. As small and dainty and as lively and funny as she is, you would never know that she's experienced the life that she has. A very traumatic life when she was young, a lot of sadness in her early life. As many do, at some point she wondered, why me? This is not my fault. Why is my life like this? She left home at a very young age. And she looked and searched for something or someone to fix her life for her. What Carol found is that we are our own problem. We are the only one who can fix us. And we are the one that we've been searching for, ourselves. Remember the ending of The Wizard of Oz? Dorothy and the three characters are waiting on the platform and they're all going to get in the hot air balloon, and all of a sudden something happens and the hot air balloon gets away and Dorothy can't get in it and she can't go back to Kansas. And then all of a sudden the good witch Glenda comes down and Dorothy is very upset. How am I going to get home? And the good witch Glenda says to Dorothy, there's nothing to worry about. You always had the power inside of you to get home. And the Tin Man says, well, why didn't you tell her? And Glenda says to Dorothy, you had to learn it for yourself. You would not have believed me if I just told you straight out. So the Tin Man asks Dorothy, what did you learn, Dorothy? And Dorothy responds that everything I was looking for outside of myself was already within me. And that's when she wakes up. Carol, like most people, reached a point in her life when she wanted change, but she didn't know what it looked like and didn't know where to find it. She grew up, as I said, in a very abusive home and left home very young. She eventually was searching for what she thought everybody had but her, something like a rule book for life. She never stayed anywhere too long or with anybody for even as much as 6 months, because if they didn't give her what she needed to make changes, she moved on and looked for something else. Carol had 28 jobs in 5 states in 11 years. She was chased by police in 5 countries and arrested in a communist country, beaten and left in gutters around the world. And something inside of her kept her moving on and looking. She eventually returned to the Boston area, and things still were not working out. She attempted suicide, and that didn't work. She ended up sleeping on park benches and eating out of trash cans. The anger that was so built up in her created such a confusion in her mind that it was even difficult to have conversations with people. So she was very alone. But she still thought, why did others have what she didn't? Carol met many angels on her path who had agreed to turn her life upside down, like I described earlier, so that she could have those experiences. And she had them. We've all had them. One day she felt a nudge, that might have been the soul's call, to wander into a building where they were serving coffee and donuts. The group there convinced her that if she followed them, followed what they were doing, they would help her create her own personal rule book for life. Carol made it from the park bench to healing. Today, Carol has 2 master's degrees, is a retired practitioner. She meets people in all directions of her life. She has wonderful friends, and she's a writer. She'll tell you that life is good, and she will certainly make you laugh. And after everything she's been through, she has learned that life is fair. It gives you back what you give out. She learned to understand where her pain came from, and what it has caused her. She eventually learned to let go of judgment. That was her big thing, to trust the process of an intelligence greater than herself and to be patient with it. When things around her or in her life don't work out, it's okay to let go of them. One of her teachers taught her about the analogy of the wind. The wind may be blowing in only one direction, but all the boats on the water can use their sails to go in any direction that they want. Any path or direction a person goes is right for them. And through this, she learned that the power of the wind was her higher power, and that she could open up to this power to change her life and give it direction. Resentment was also a big lesson for Carol. She'd been through a lot with a lot of people. Earlier, I said, in relation to doing healing work and forgiving the transgressor on our path, it helps us to find that light back. We heal ourselves and we heal another. You know, I've talked about that a couple times the last few times I've been here. As we heal people below us and even support people above us. We keep vibrating out that healing energy and that healing light. And Carol learned about that. She continues to heal people wherever she goes. She writes a blog. She has a YouTube channel called Changeless Change, and she does a little thing every day called a spot of sunshine. Well, she'll read a little short children's story, and then she makes you laugh. She drives Uber, and she meets people every day that she still talks with and works with them, even in her sage advice. Someone recently got out of her car and told them that she had changed his life with just a few things that she had said. So that was very wonderful. Carol continues with a forgiveness process every day and spiritual practices. Her best spiritual practice is writing. And that is how she learned to release a lot of things that were inside of her. She says that she has the addict of memories. So in her addict, as she writes, she's able to release the baggage that's piled up in her addict and stored. Writing is a wonderful thing and has done wonderful things for her. So she's learned to let go of that. She has her maintenance program of staying healthy, well, and keeping herself in front of people. And she makes them laugh, and then she heals again. I believe that Carol, having experienced her life the way she did and listened to her inner guidance, her soul guidance to wake up at the right time to do her work and her healing, she has become one of the strongest angels I know right now. And reading through the steps that she's taken to heal and then putting it into this little book, it's a very small book, actually, that has been a gift to the world. And so her healing is a gift and is one of her sole purposes. She continues to heal people constantly. This is from Carol in her book. If I could tell you only one thing that would change your life, only one thing that would be better to alter your perspective and your attitude. Well, that's two things, perspective and attitude. When I moved from believing nothing was my fault to knowing I was completely responsible for my life, everything changed. Actually, it was me that changed. I moved to a different part of my circle. I moved from the dark side of myself to the light side of myself, all within me without losing me. I formerly lived mostly within the negative aspects of myself. Today, my personality projects my positive side. This change is not about becoming someone else. This change is about becoming your authentic self, who you were born to be. And that is the call of the soul. In closing, do you recognize your messages from your soul's call? This week, make an intention, a declaration to meet your soul halfway. Try to actively listen for when messages come, paying attention to what your soul may be wanting you to hear. And if you're not currently writing or journaling as a spiritual practice, try it. Sit down in the mornings or at that moment, any moment during the day. Mornings are really good for something like that. And just start writing a piece of paper, whatever wants to come out. And the more you do that, you'll start seeing messages in your writing. You'll start getting what's called automatic writing, which is those messages coming from the attic messages coming from your soul. And do it with pen and paper, pencil, pen, not with the computer. Doing it the old-fashioned way actually is a way to kind of get that energy moving right through you. And it doesn't matter what you write. You can even start with, hello, dear soul, but just do the writing. You'll be surprised. From Ernest Holmes in Science of Mind, we have within us a power that can overcome every obstacle in our experience and set us safe, satisfied, and at peace, healed and prosperous in a new light and a new life. And from Carol, oh great spirit, open the door to my heart and soul, release the truth within me, waiting to be felt, waiting to be heard, waiting to be seen. And I'll add, welcome to the journey of self-discovery, opening the door to your heart and your soul, releasing the truth within you. Thank you.